Yeah.
You want me to tell you how I saved your mother from a bear?
Yes.
We were on a canoe trip going up to Canada. When we went through customs, the guy asked us where we were going. He said, well, I just want you to know there was a rogue bear, and the bear killed a person. But I was young and dumb, and I said, okay, we're going to go anyway. So your mother and I, we paddled all day, and we got to this place that looked like a good place to set up camp. And so we turned in for the night into the tent, and we're laying there, and we hear this animal coming through the woods. Clump, clump, clump. You know, I look at your mother, and she looks at me, and we're thinking, this is the bear, you know? So I'm thinking, well, I first thought...
I'm going to feed Renee to the bear.
I first thought I'd send Renee out there and see if she could do something.
Welcome to Three Little Fishes. We're three sisters who grew up in the Midwest together, but have since spread across the country. I live in Los Angeles.
I'm in Nashville.
And I live in Philadelphia. We are all married with children. We've all had careers, but now we stay at home with our families.
We've all been through ups and downs that come along with life and have always helped each other through, shared stories, and laughed together.
We welcome all of you into our daily conversations and hope you have some fun with us.
So let's jump in.
Welcome to episode 13, Lucky 13. Our podcast is officially a teenager. Hard to believe that we've been at this for 3 months. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and wherever you're listening to us, rate and review us. The 3 minutes you spend leaving that review is hugely helpful in amplifying our reach to a bigger audience. We appreciate all the listeners that have already liked, commented, and reviewed. Your support means so much. So thank you so much again. All right, let's jump in. Today we are talking all things Father's Day. And like Mother's Day, I didn't really know anything of how Father's Day started. And I think, Kathy, you have some ideas of how Father's Day came about.
I did look into it, and according to history.com, it was started by a woman named Sonora Smart Dodd. She had heard a sermon celebrating Mother's Day, and it inspired her. Her father was a Civil War veteran, and she wanted to honor him in some way. So she brought a petition forward in Spokane, Washington, and in 1910, and that was the official Father's Day. But it wasn't till almost 60 years later that President Lyndon B. Johnson made the first official Father's Day in 1966, which is the third Sunday in June, which is going to be June 16th, this Sunday. So I found that very interesting because that is 52 years later than Mother's Day was officially.
That's interesting. I wonder
Yeah.
why.
I wonder what, do men just feel like they're being honored all the days?
All the
so
time,
they don't
and
need
they didn't need the fuss. I don't know. What do you think about that, Dad?
So today we have a special guest. Our dad is sitting in today on our podcast. So Dad, welcome.
Hi, Dad.
Oh, it's good to be here. I've never done a podcast before, so I don't really know how to act. But
Just be yourself. Be your charming self.
no,
You're perfect.
Mother's Day has always been extremely important in our family, and seems like Father's Day always kind of got glossed over. But it's nice of you to recognize it this year. I'm just kidding.
You know, Dad, you were really close to your dad. You and grandfather were super close. So do you get reminiscent this time of year, like thinking about your dad?
Yeah, I do a little bit. We were close. He did a lot of things. He made a soapbox derby for me. He made a go-kart. He made a little scooter for me to ride.
Yeah, he was crafty.
He was very mechanical, of course. He worked for Minneapolis Honeywell as an engineer.
Doesn't he have like thousands of patents through Honeywell? Like he was really, really smart that way.
Yeah, he has several patents. I don't know how many. I think probably more like 10 or 12.
Oh.
But since he worked for Honeywell, he got paid $1 per patent. He didn't make any money on it.
I know, that's too bad.
Thanks, Honeywell.
Seems kind of like a ripoff.
Yeah. One of his inventions was trying to lay down blacktop so it was flat and didn't have any ripples in it. I remember when he was working on it, he was showing me this device that he had developed, asked me what I thought, if I had any ideas, and I had no ideas. I said, Dad, I'm not sure what to do. But I think a lot of the blacktop highways are smooth because of my dad.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I didn't know that story either.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
At the end, he was the head of the mobile equipment division for Honeywell.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
either.
They worked on Barber Green, lays down blacktops, and
So I would say that I did not get any of that from him.
Me
I got
either.
no engineering stuff. Although Kathy did. You can kind of figure out how to put stuff together. And I think David can. I think David's has a little of that in
I don't
him.
have that. I can
have
read
zero.
directions, but I
I
can't
can
do it. I
piddle
can't figure it
around,
out.
but I don't know if I can. I'm not that crafty.
I think you're all pretty crafty, actually.
I'm crafty in the kitchen.
Your
Yeah,
grandfather
only a dad
used to
would say
take you
that.
on all these adventures. He got you hooked on the outdoors. How did
Yeah.
that start?
Well, one of the first times that I remember vividly was, I think it was around 13. We went up to Canada, went with another guy, Mr. Taylor, who used to own a gas station, and his son. And we drove up to Ely, Minnesota, through the 2-lane highways, which now are all practically 4-lane highways. And some of the highways were still gravel at that time. And when we got to Ely, we went to an outfitter and got Duluth packs that had food in it and got a couple of canoes. Actually, we took up our own canoe. The Taylors rented a canoe. The canoe that we had, I actually have in the boathouse still. It has an outrigger on it.
For people who don't know what an outrigger is, what's an outrigger?
Well, it's what we put the motor on. We had a little 3-horse Evinrude outboard motor that we put on it. And I've still got the Evinrude in the boathouse, and I've still got the canoe in the boathouse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we went down Moose Lake, and I think went into Side Lake and maybe Ensign. Then we got into Basswood Lake, and we found this place that they wanted to set up a camp. So we set up our camp, put the tents up, and got the fire going and everything. And I noticed that there was something moving in the woods. And there were 3 bears that were walking in the woods by the camp. And so we were a little concerned about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, we fixed dinner, had a nice dinner that night, and it gets dark up here pretty late. I think it was probably 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I asked my dad if I could take the canoe and go fishing. There was a bay not too far from where we were camping. Beautiful evening, one of those starlit nights with the big moon shining off the water. And I cast, and this smallmouth bass just exploded out of the water. I mean, it was incredible. It hit this lure, and I brought this smallmouth in. As you guys know, you've caught a lot of smallmouth up here. They fight like crazy.
Yeah, they do. They're fun. They jump.
It was so much fun. Couldn't wait to get back to camp to tell my dad about it, and because it was so exciting for me. And I think that's what got me hooked.
Hooked on fishing.
So when I got back to camp, the bears were still there. My dad said, "I'll keep the fire going all night along with Mr. Taylor. You go ahead and go to bed." So I went to bed. Didn't worry about a thing because I knew my dad was watching over me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
That's really nice. You still don't love bears, right? Like we have a few bear stories. Like you've been taking us up to Canada our whole life. And there's one bear story. There's one bear story in particular I was telling my kids about yesterday. Like as we're
The one where you dove over the couch?
Yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah.
that story? So for our
Oh, yeah.
listeners who don't know, we had gone, as a family had gone to Canada. I mean, I think I was in high school, and we were staying in this it was a cabin, but that was it. Like it didn't have a bathroom. It just literally like was walls and like a little kitchenette with no running water.
It was our cabin.
It was basically you're just, it was rough. It was dark at night in Canada. It gets pitch black out if there's no moon. It's hard to see anything in front of you. So to use the restroom, you had to use an outhouse, which was awful. So I had to go out. I was dreading it because it was dark and we were telling bear stories. And I go out, I'm trying to get outside and I touch something furry. I cannot see my hand in front of my face. I don't know where my flashlight is, but I scream bloody murder. And the next thing I know, flashlights are on, and I find a flashlight, I turn it on. And as I turn it on, my whole family is ducking behind couches or chairs. Nobody comes to see if I'm okay. But everybody pops their head up. And luckily, I did not get eaten by a bear. It was just our black lab who scared everyone to death that night.
That was because we had the bear incident earlier that night, right?
I
With
don't
the
remember if
treeing
it
of
was
the
that
bear.
same day or the day before, but we had bears. So
We had
it
bears
was
that
in front
trip,
of
for
mine. Nancy, we would not have let you get eaten by the bear. I
I
can't
don't
believe
know.
this is like your recollection.
I don't know.
Crazy.
Felt pretty lonely.
I thought it was
Whatever.
the same day that Hunter treed that bear
Because there's
outside
also
of the cabin.
That's the only good thing he ever did.
Oh, he was so nice. He was so
He
sweet.
was nice.
He was
He
nice.
was dumb.
But, he wouldn't retrieve right or anything like that. But he was a nice dog. But
Yeah, and he was a little
he
smelly.
was a hero. He was a hero that day that he treated the bear. He got to sleep inside, and we gave him extra treats that day. Yeah, he did a good
So,
job.
Dad, you did these trips with grandfather, and you loved them. You did all these like amazing adventures. And it's interesting. You had a sister. You had a younger sister, and she was never invited on these trips. Do you know why?
I have no idea why. It wasn't up to me. It was up to
Was
my
it because
dad.
she
Right.
was a girl? Like they just didn't do that, or like why was that?
Oh, you're trying to get me in a corner here. I don't know why she wasn't invited. Maybe she didn't want to go. I have no idea. I think, way back in the day, maybe guys just wanted to do a guy's trip. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, it was just a clumsy way for me to try to connect. You were never like that. So you had, before David came along, you were a girl dad for, for
Yes.
10 years. You always took us. Like we've always, whenever you went on an adventure, whether it was hiking or going to Canada or fishing or learning how to water ski or canoe, we were always, right? You always took us. You
Oh,
always were throwing
absolutely.
us into anything that you were doing.
Yeah, that's right. That's how I got you hurt, barefoot skiing.
You
Sorry.
you didn't hurt me. That's
No.
not
Yeah,
true.
well,
No.
So
wasn't
for
being
the
careful.
Accidents happen.
so for the
That's
listeners, for people listening who don't know, I grew up water skiing, and I was barefooting when I was a teenager. And when you barefoot on water, you have to have very calm water, and you don't barefoot around other skiers. And a boat, we thought we were by ourselves in this part of the lake, and a boat came out of nowhere and kind of cut me off. And I got hurt, but I'm fine. It's fine. Accidents happen. That's part of sports. Things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
regret
nice.
barefooting.
It's nice you don't blame me.
Yeah. So, Dad, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You obviously you were a dad of 4, and now you're a grandfather of 8, ranging from 9 to 21. What's different about being a dad as opposed to being a grandfather?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, as a father, you always worry about your children. You're always concerned. You want to make sure they have everything they need. And it's kind of interesting as a grandparent, we worry about our grandkids, We're
The worry
You know,
doesn't stop.
yeah, we're always concerned about them, and we try and be active as much as we can. We've gone to see Sarah, and we've gone to see Sabrina. We've gone and played golf with Carson and Grayson and fish with them and all this kind of stuff. And Trevor, we're going to be coming out to see Riley and Johanna, and
Yep.
we go to soccer games, and
Yep.
we just love to be involved with our grandkids, and we worry about them probably as much as we did about our own children.
Is it easier or harder?
Well, when you have grandchildren, I mean, when you want to, you can give them back to their parents. So that makes it a little bit easier, but well, we still
that seems dreamy.
We're still concerned about them, you know.
Yeah.
There's times I like to give my teenagers away.
They're all so darn cute. I just love them all. That's like
Well,
I love you.
that's a
I love you
special
guys.
bond.
Yeah,
It's a
you
special
guys,
bond you have with.
I think I have a special bond with you girls too. You're all super girls. You've all done very well. You've all got a master's degree. Kathy has a doctorate. She has 2 years past a doctorate. I mean, you guys have done fantastically well. Very proud of all
Thank
of
you,
you.
Dad.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank you.
Dad. That's sweet.
Not only that, but you're good looking.
You know, Dad,
That's funny.
just now you're saying about how you didn't worry about anything because of your dad would have protected you from the bear. I mean, you definitely have been that way for us. Like you and Mom were always like, there's nothing we can't work through. And I feel like you meant that. Like we always felt like, even though we didn't always know until you test that, right, that we could always turn to you. Like I'm particularly thinking about like high school, to the counselor to not be named, who brought everybody into the office. Remember when I was a freshman into that
Yes.
meeting, and I was really struggling with school. And this is before I was diagnosed. I'm severely dyslexic, which we didn't know. And that I was just struggling. And he was so mean to me. And I will never forget it. That moment of, you hope your parent's going to be there for you. But it was crystal clear to me after that moment that you stood up for me and you told him that he was not appropriate and he could not work with me anymore. And it was the first time that I was like, oh, they mean it. Like they have my back. And it was this pure moment that it was so long ago that I still think about it. And I hope that my kids, I say that to my kids too. And I hope that they, push comes to shove, that they'll know that I mean that too. So
Of course they do. And you do everything. You guys are great moms. All three of you are. And you're going to do whatever you have to do to watch out for your children.
Nancy, you did push the envelope a few times in high school.
Linda, you didn't, let's see, didn't you jump off the roof into some guy's arms in high school? I mean, I didn't know anything about that.
I did.
Yeah, I think you probably pushed the envelope yourself. And then I remember one night Kathy came running in. She said, I got to get in the house. The police are behind me. Right?
I forgot about that. Why were the police after you, Kathy?
She doesn't want to talk about it, I don't think.
It's for another podcast.
Oh my God, that was funny.
And of course, there's that night that you got arrested too, Nancy, you know.
Well,
with,
arrested is a bit of a stretch. I mean, I was just asked to be picked up. They just wanted you to pick me up. That's it.
Yeah, that's because you were partying pretty hard.
You all made it to adulthood.
Yeah, barely.
We all did.
We're all in the thick of that right now. Well,
and we didn't have any cameras
I just have
back.
one.
We didn't have any cameras back then too to manage either. Like it was all like our dumb mistakes that nobody was recording, right? Like,
right.
I mean, that's the big difference.
Sure.
Dad,
It's totally different.
What's the best decision you think you ever made?
Oh, that's an easy one. That's an easy question.
I know how he's going to answer this.
Marrying your mother.
Yep.
It's the best decision I ever made. I got really lucky. You know, when you're young, you know, I mean, she was a young, hot nursing student at Northwestern. But you never know when you get married how it's going to turn out. But it turned out wonderfully well for me.
Yeah.
It sure did.
She's pretty great.
Today's our anniversary.
That's right, it is. Happy anniversary.
Thanks. We've been married for 58 years.
Well, you're doing all the right things. So Sunday is Father's Day. None of us will be there, but if you had like your favorite Father's Day like meal or treat, what would that look like?
I wanted to take your mother to dinner tonight, but the place that I call is they don't have room. They have too many fishermen, and they're not taking any extra anybody. So I don't know what we're going to do tonight. But normally we'd have a steak dinner, maybe some champagne, stuff like that.
Yeah. Bubbles
Yeah,
are always a
nice.
good idea.
Basically, whatever your mother wants, that's what we have.
Well, I mean, the good news is you've been together so long that you have kind of synchronous tastes now. So like a steak, a baked potato, a nice
Yeah,
salad, like the
yeah,
standard go-to.
you're right. I mean, I think I've become more and more like your mother over the years.
You lucky thing.
I'm not sure that's true.
Mom is
she's
really she's
she's
followed you.
molded. She's molded me.
She's followed you around with like blind love. Like you've been on a lot of adventures. I mean, has Mom fallen in a bog? Like she's fallen in like an ice like pond? Like right? Like am I remembering some of this right?
She
Grandpa Kuntz fell down the bog. Mom was not there. Mom and actually, Dad, you have like drug us all on adventures. Like, how many bike rides or hikes have
Yeah.
you been like, let's go see, and we end up 2 hours later, all parched, starving, because we've had this like crazy adventure we were not anticipating. Or you
Yeah, it's
drag us to like the Arctic Circle practically, and then we, are in the middle of nowhere.
uh,
You've almost killed us multiple times on your
yeah.
adventures.
I've saved your life many times.
Do you remember that portage trip we did? I think it was the last portage trip. And if people don't know what a portage trip is, it means that you are canoeing and you're backpacking, and then you have to carry a canoe over water to get to another thing of water. And this trip, we even had our grandparents, your mom and dad went on this trip. And I
Yeah,
was in a canoe with you, and you kept saying everything was a race. I was so tired. You're like, dig, Nancy, dig. It's a race. But I'm like, who are we racing? There's nobody out here except,
You fell for it every time.
every time. And every time, because I'm like, okay, I gotta like paddle. But do you remember we like slept in tents and it rained,
yeah,
and it was such a hard, it was amazing, but also super hard that we never did that trip
Yeah.
again. And
Yeah.
yeah,
grandfather was making donuts in the rain over an open fire. It was raining, we were cold, we were starving, like we're running out of like our supplies for the week coming to the end. And I think to this day is why I don't love just store-bought donuts. I feel like I never had a donut that good. My memory of a donut should always
it's
taste
because we were
like
starving.
that's
right.
because you're so hungry. Yeah,
But my
yeah,
memory of that donut is the best donut ever, and nothing ever compares to that.
we've had some
Grandpa had a
interesting trips.
special touch with open fire cooking. He did
Yeah,
a good job. But I remember getting done with that trip and going to the chocolate mousse, and that was delicious.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was in Ely, Minnesota. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
yeah, that
was
was good.
delicious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But that just, it's a good, I think you never grow unless you make mistakes or you push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I think, becoming like complete people really, all of our adventures helped us become the people we are, of course.
I
So
mean, I
it's
think you even had
amazing.
a dry socket, didn't you, on that trip, Linda?
I did. I had oral surgery by campfire that trip.
And I had mono and
You
didn't
had
know it.
mono.
yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was quite,
Linda, luckily for you, that trip, that dad is a really good dentist, endodontist, and
yeah.
mom's a nurse. Like, what would you have done if you did not have like a medical person on that trip?
I could have been in trouble.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We did an I&D and got it to drain,
Yeah.
got you under control.
Yeah.
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 You
I
had the
lived
best.
to see another day after
Yeah.
that.
You
Yeah.
want me to tell you one of my stories how I saved your mother from a
Yes.
Yeah.
bear?
Yes.
You want to
I
hear it? You want to
certainly,
hear it?
yes, I
Yeah.
certainly do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was just your mother and I. We were on a canoe trip going up to Canada. When we went through customs, the guy asked us where we were going, And we told him where we wanted to go. And he said, well, I just want you to know, I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, there was a rogue bear there. And the bear killed a person.
Oh.
And yeah, so it was, so we said, well, okay. But I was young and dumb, and I said,
Right.
okay, we're going to go anyway. So your mother and I, we paddled all day, and we got to this place that looked like a good place to set up camp. And so we set up camp, put the tent up, and put up the lean-to, got a fire going, and, got dinner going, and it started to rain. And so, we hang our packs in the trees so the bears can't get them. And then we turn in for the night into the tent in our sleeping bags. And it's probably about 11 o'clock, or maybe it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, somewhere around there. And everything's wet because it's been raining. And we're laying there, and we hear this animal coming through the woods. Clump, clump, clump. I look at your mother, and she looks at me, and we're thinking, this is probably the bear. This is the bear,
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, well, I first thought,
I'm going to feed Renee to the bear.
I first thought I'd send Renee out there to see if she could do something. But then I thought, I'm the guy, right? I mean, the guy has to step up.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a weapon. I just had this little knife, like a MacGyver knife. That's all I had. Mm-hmm. So I turned to your mother and I said, well, I'll go out there and see what I can do.
Yeah.
So
nice knowing you.
Nice knowing you. So I unzipped the tent and the mosquito netting. I go out there with a flashlight and my little MacGyver knife, yelling and ranting and raving, carrying on, making as much noise and looking as big as I can. And I'm looking around, I don't see anything. And I hear this clump, clump, and I look down, there's this great big toad that's been jumping. He sound like a big animal, because everything was wet. Yeah. So after a minute or so, I go back in the tent and I said to Renee, I scared the bear off, so you don't have to worry.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I think good night.
Amazing. Good providing. That's it though. Like when you're in the woods, everything is so amplified, and then your imagination gets away with you, and it all just becomes.
Yeah.
That was
a fun trip though. Yeah.
You've had a lot of adventures.
I don't know if our listeners remember, but the Three Little Fishes kind of like to celebrate things with jingles. And so we have a little jingle for you, Dad.
Oh, really?
Okay. Here's Darmon's jingle 2024. Darmon, a dad so sweet, brown eyes that don't miss a beat. He's always thinking of us kids, sharing dadisms are a feat. Like, got a bid to win, make card playing a hoot, always ready to go, a hike, a bike, a fishing trip too.
Oh,
a hardworking man with stories untold of dad, many would say, God broke the mold. Don't ask about lowered units or propellers gone bad. He always smiles through repairs to be had.
From fishing and hunting to races he'd run, in football and laughter, he brings all the fun. There is no one with a bigger heart. His hands of magic made dentistry an art.
Oh, nice.
He's our hero, our rock, with humor so grand, sensitive, thoughtful, always in the zone, pushing us further, never alone.
He challenges us and opens our eyes, family focused in all that he does. For all that you are and all that you do, Dad, we are grateful and we love you too.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, Dad. To one
Happy
of the best.
Father's Day.
Let's do a little toast. So to all the dads out there, we want to give a shout out to all of the hard work that you do. And the Three Little Fishes hope that all the dads have the day that they want. We love you, Dad. Cheers.
We love you, Dad.
Love you too.
So glad you joined us.
Cheers, Dad.
Thanks for having me.
We want to thank you for listening to our podcast and letting us sisters jump into your day. Please make sure to follow, rate, and review us. Have a great weekend, and sisters out.
Bye-bye.